Maria stood by the window, her hands trembling slightly as she pulled back the curtain. The street outside looked calm, kids on bicycles, a mailman whistling, an old woman watering her flowers, but to her, it always felt like danger was hiding just around the corner. She had memorized every sound in the neighborhood. The growl of the garbage truck at 7:15. The teenage boy with the speaker playing reggaeton at 3:30. The ICE vans? They came in silence. She never heard them coming. Maria Hernandez was 35, but her eyes carried the exhaustion of a lifetime. A mother of 3, she had crossed the border from Honduras 8 years ago, fleeing violence that swallowed her husband and shattered her hometown. She didn't come to chase the American dream. She came to survive. Her apartment was small, 2 rooms, peeling paint, and a leaky faucet that no landlord ever bothered to fix. But it was safe. At least, it used to be. "Niños, adentro!" she called out the window. Her boys, Mateo, 9, and Diego, 7, came running, their dusty sneakers slapping against the concrete. Her daughter, Lucia, barely 5, sat cross-legged on the floor, coloring a picture of a house with a red roof and big windows. A house that wasn't theirs. Maria kissed the top of Lucia's head, inhaling the smell of crayons and shampoo. She tried to smile. She always tried to smile. Because her children had no idea how close they were to losing everything. The letter from Immigration and Customs Enforcement lay on the kitchen table like a loaded gun. Notice to appear. Failure to attend may result in removal proceedings. It was the second one in 3 months. She had a choice: show up and risk deportation, or disappear completely and become a ghost in her own city. "Why are you sad, Mama?" Lucia asked, looking up with her big brown eyes. Maria crouched down and forced a smile. "I'm not sad, mi amor. Just thinking." That was a lie. She was always thinking. Always planning. Always afraid. That evening, her friend Carla called. "You've heard what's happening tomorrow, right?" Carla said, voice low and urgent. "The protest downtown. Thousands are going. We can't let this keep happening." Maria hesitated. "With the kids?" "I don't know." "Bring them. People need to see us. Real mothers. Real families. You sit at home, they'll never know you exist. You show up, you matter." Maria clutched the phone tighter. She didn't want to be seen. She wanted to be invisible. But maybe invisible was no longer an option. That night, Maria didn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to every creak, every car horn, every dog bark. She wasn't just thinking anymore. She was deciding. And by morning, her decision was made. They would go. To be continued. The knock wasn't loud. But it didn't need to be. Maria's eyes snapped open before the second knock came. Her heart was already racing, pounding in her ears louder than the noise at the door. She sat up in bed, instantly alert. For a few seconds she listened. Silence. Then again, knock, 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 3 slow, firm raps. Lucia stirred beside her, groggy and mumbling something in her sleep. Maria pressed her hand over the little girl's back, keeping her down. Her sons were in the next room. She hoped they hadn't heard. Her feet hit the floor before her thoughts caught up. She crept toward the front door. Every step felt like walking on glass. From the peephole, nothing. But her neighbors had warned her. ICE didn't wear uniforms sometimes. They didn't always drive marked vans. They didn't always knock twice. She backed away, her breathing shallow. Another knock. "Miss Hernandez," came a voice through the door. Male. Clear. Too polite. "U.S. Immigration. We just have a few questions." Her body froze. A soundless scream formed in her chest. Questions? No. She knew what that meant. No warrant. No entry. That's what the flyers said. But what if they came in anyway? She grabbed her phone and dialed Carla. No answer. She texted, "They're here. At my door." A moment passed. Then another. No reply. Suddenly, she heard a noise outside, the sound of tires crunching gravel. A vehicle pulling away. She rushed back to the window. A plain white van was driving off. Gone. Just like that. She didn't know if it was a test or a mistake or a miracle. But it left her shaking. Knees weak. Arms trembling. She sank to the floor and covered her face, the tears coming fast now, hot and silent. She cried not because of the knock, but because of the life where a knock could mean everything. Lucia wandered into the hallway, rubbing her eyes. "Mama?" Maria wiped her face and smiled through it. "Go back to bed, mi amor. Everything's okay." But it wasn't. And she knew it never would be again. That afternoon, Carla finally texted back. "Are you okay? Protest is still on for tomorrow. You should come." Maria stared at the message. Then typed, "I'll be there." To be continued. The heat was already thick by 10 a.m., but the crowd didn't seem to care. They came anyway. Thousands of them. Maria stood near the steps of City Hall, her hand tightly wrapped around Lucia's. The little girl wore a pink baseball cap and clutched a handmade sign that read in big, shaky letters, "I just want my MOM." Maria's own sign was simpler. "Yo no soy una criminal. Solo soy mama." She had written it the night before, after putting the kids to sleep and sitting in the kitchen with her thoughts for company. The words came from a place deeper than fear. They came from exhaustion. From truth. Around her, the streets pulsed with sound, chants, bullhorns, drums. Entire families filled the square. Children on shoulders. Old men with canes. College kids with megaphones. There were banners in Spanish, English, Tagalog, Farsi. One woman screamed, "Ice out of LA!" Another, "No human being is illegal!" Maria felt her heart pounding with the rhythm of the crowd. The voices. The drums. The shared rage. The shared hope. She wasn't invisible anymore. And it terrified her. Lucia tugged her shirt. "Mama, why are they yelling?" Maria crouched down, meeting her daughter's eyes. "They're yelling because they're brave. Are you brave?" Maria smiled, not a soft smile, but a smile sharpened by years of survival. "I'm learning." Suddenly, from the far end of the plaza, a ripple moved through the crowd. Whispers. Then raised voices. Then shouting. The National Guard had arrived. Rows of them. Helmets. Shields. Batons. Tear gas launchers. They lined up like a wall of armor and silence, moving forward in perfect synchronization. The crowd's chants grew louder, angrier, more desperate. "Stay close," Maria whispered to Lucia. She pulled her daughter behind her as people pressed inward, forming a human barrier. Some raised their hands high. Others locked arms. One young man, tall, black hoodie, eyes on fire, picked up a water bottle and hurled it toward the line of soldiers. Bad choice. Everything exploded. The bottle hit a shield. The first tear gas canister landed. A white cloud burst open with a hiss that sliced through the air like a scream. Chaos. People scattered. Screaming. Coughing. Tripping. Maria lifted Lucia into her arms and ran. Tears streamed down her face, not from panic, not from pain, but from the gas, thick and burning, searing her lungs and eyes. She ducked into an alley with a group of others. A man handed her a bottle of milk. "Pour it on your eyes," he yelled. She did. Lucia cried harder. In the distance, she heard someone shouting names. Others were chanting still. Some filming. But Maria wasn't thinking about protest anymore. She was thinking about getting her daughter home. Later that night, after Lucia had finally fallen asleep, Maria sat on the floor, her back against the wall, eyes swollen, throat raw. She checked her phone. Hashtag I am Maria was trending. Someone had captured her on video, holding her daughter, shielding her, crying but unflinching. The caption read, "This is what ICE is trying to erase." And suddenly, the whole world was watching. To be continued. The cell was cold. Concrete walls. No windows. Just a metal bench, a toilet in the corner, and a flickering fluorescent light above her head. Maria sat with her knees pulled to her chest, her wrists still sore from the plastic zip ties. Her shirt reeked of sweat and tear gas. Her eyes burned. Her voice was gone. But worse than all of that, Lucia was gone. It happened so fast. One moment she was cradling her daughter in the alley behind the protest, surrounded by volunteers, medics, strangers. The next, officers in tactical gear pulled them apart. "You're under arrest for obstruction." That was the phrase they used. Obstruction of what? Of being quiet? Of being invisible? She screamed for Lucia. Lucia screamed back. And then she was gone. Taken. Now the silence felt like a punishment. The hours dragged. They didn't tell her anything. No lawyer. No interpreter. No food. Only questions. "Where are you from? How long have you been in the U.S.? Do you know you're in violation of federal law?" She answered nothing. Only asked, "Where is my daughter?" No response. At one point, a guard, young, maybe 22, walked past her cell and paused. He looked at her for a second longer than necessary. Then said, almost softly, "They took her to Child Protective Services. If you're lucky, they'll let you call later. If you're lucky." Maria buried her face in her arms and cried until the sobs stopped making sound. In the cell next to hers was another woman, older, Guatemalan maybe. She reached her fingers through the small crack in the dividing wall. "Como es llama tu Nina?" she whispered. "Lucia," Maria replied hoarsely. "Dios la ceda," the woman said. "Dios también te ve." God sees you. It sounded like a lie. But it was all she had. Late that night, a woman in a gray blazer finally appeared. ICE agent? Social worker? She didn't know. "We're transferring you to Adelanto tomorrow morning," the woman said flatly. "It's a federal facility. We'll determine if your case qualifies for expedited removal." Maria's lips trembled. "And my daughter?" "We're working on it." That was all. She wasn't a criminal. She was a mother. But in this country, sometimes, those things were treated the same. Maria didn't know what day it was anymore. The lights in the detention center never dimmed. Time bled together in that stale, fluorescent place. But something changed. That morning, an officer opened the cell door without warning. He didn't yell. Didn't shove. Just said, "Someone's here for you." Maria blinked against the harsh hallway lights as they led her to a cold metal room. A table. 2 chairs. A man in a navy blue suit sat waiting, paperwork in hand. A translator was beside him. He stood up. "Ms. Hernandez," he said, voice calm but urgent. "My name is David Chang. I'm an immigration attorney. I'm here because the world is watching you." Maria looked at him, confused. The translator repeated it in Spanish. Her mouth opened slightly. She didn't understand. "You've been all over the news," he explained. "Your photo. Your daughter's sign. I just want my mom. It's viral. You've become a symbol." Maria felt the room spin. A symbol? She didn't want to be a symbol. She wanted her daughter. "You have people marching for you now. Civil rights groups. Faith leaders. Celebrities. They're calling you La Madre de Los Angeles." Tears filled her eyes. She hadn't asked for this. She just wanted to live. David continued, There's a hearing in 2 days. We're pushing for humanitarian parole. And we're filing an emergency motion to reunite you with Lucia. He placed a folder on the table. Inside was a photo. Lucia. Safe. In a foster home. Still wearing her pink baseball cap. Maria touched the photo with trembling hands. Can I call her? She whispered. David nodded. Soon. I promise. Later that night, in a different part of the country, a late-night talk show played a clip. Tonight's top story: a mother arrested for protecting her daughter during a protest. Her words have become a rallying cry. Yo no soy una criminal. Solo soy mama. Crowds gathered outside detention centers with candles and signs that read, #I am Maria. Let her go. Families belong together. Maria still couldn't sleep. But for the first time in weeks, she felt seen. Maria sat straight, her hands folded tightly on the table in front of her. Her beige detention uniform had been freshly washed. But the stress showed on her face, dark circles under her eyes, dry lips, shoulders tense with weeks of fear. Behind her, the courtroom was filled. Journalists, activists, community members, mothers, fathers. A dozen signs held high in the hallway outside. Let her go. Yo no soy una criminal. Solo soy mama. #I am Maria. Judge Hamilton, a stern man in his 60s with silver hair and unreadable eyes, adjusted his glasses and looked down at the file. Ms. Hernandez, he began. You are currently in removal proceedings under Title 8 U.S. Code. Maria's translator whispered rapidly beside her. She didn't flinch. David, her attorney, stood up. Your Honor, we are requesting humanitarian parole based on excessive use of force during the protest, family separation, and the public interest this case has drawn. He turned briefly, nodded at Maria. She stood. David handed the judge a statement, handwritten, translated, signed. Would you like to read it aloud? The judge asked. Maria nodded, her voice soft but steady. She began. I came to this country not for a dream, but because I had no choice. I came with my children because they were not safe. I have followed the law, paid taxes, worked hard. I never asked to be a symbol. I only wanted to raise my children in peace. On June 15th, I stood in the street with a sign that said I am not a criminal, I am a mother. And for that, they took my daughter. All I want is to be with her again. That is all. Silence followed. No coughing. No paper rustling. Even the judge looked down for a moment, his fingers still. After a pause, the DHS attorney stood. We have no objection to the request for release, Your Honor. Given the circumstances and the public attention, we will defer to the court. It was rare. Unheard of. But the room didn't exhale until the judge spoke again. Ms. Hernandez, your motion for humanitarian parole is granted. You are to be released today and reunited with your daughter immediately. This court will reconvene in 30 days to review your status. Maria blinked. Then blinked again. It took a full 3 seconds to register what had just happened. Then she wept. Not from sadness, but from relief. From the weight finally lifting. From the knowledge that she would hold her daughter again. Not in a courtroom. Not through a screen. But in her arms. The sun was barely rising when the door of the foster home opened. Lucia stood at the top of the porch steps, clutching a stuffed rabbit. She didn't run. She didn't smile. She just stared, unsure if what she saw was real. Then, Mama! Maria dropped to her knees. Lucia flew into her arms. They held each other without speaking, tears soaking into shirts and hair and skin. The caseworker stood back, giving them space, wiping her own eyes. No cameras. No microphones. No chance. Just them. Mother and daughter. Together again. But freedom wasn't without cost. Maria's case was still active. She could still be deported in 30 days. Her name had become a symbol. That gave her power, but also made her a target. At home that night, she tucked Lucia into bed, for the first time in what felt like years, and sat in silence at the kitchen table. The fridge still hummed. The faucet still leaked. But the world had changed. She had changed. Across the city and the country, her story echoed. Her face became the face of 1,000 mothers. Her name, a banner. Her words, a movement. And though she wanted only peace, she realized something deeper. Sometimes staying means standing. Sometimes silence is the most dangerous thing you can offer. 30 days later, she stood in the same courtroom. This time, in her own clothes. This time, hand in hand with Lucia. This time, a crowd waiting outside not for drama, but for hope. The judge read his decision slowly, deliberately. Asylum granted. The courtroom didn't erupt, it exhaled. Maria smiled. Lucia squeezed her hand. It was over. But it was also just the beginning. Because justice for one wasn't enough. Maria knew there were still mothers in cells. Still children in shelters. Still knocks at the door in the dark. So she kept showing up. Kept speaking out. Kept living not just for survival, but for meaning. She was not just a mother. She was not just a symbol. She was Maria. And she stayed.
If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories like this one. Thank you for watching.